For 38 years, that was my universe. The cold stones of the Bethesda portico were my home. The 5 covered colonnades were my sky. My companions were the groans of the sick and the desperate sighs of the dying. My God was a myth, a shimmer on the water. We all believed the legend that at certain times, an angel would trouble the water of the pool, and the first person to enter would be healed. It was a cruel hope, a lottery for the desperate, and for me, a man whose legs were withered branches. It was a joke. I'd watch the surface stir, and a mad scramble would begin. The lame who could still drag themselves, the blind who could stumble, the paralyzed who had a friend or a son to shove them forward, they would all surge toward the edge. I could only lie there, propped on my elbows, and watch the bitterness, a familiar taste in my throat. I had forgotten the feeling of standing. I had forgotten the face of the man I was before the sickness took me. Hope had withered just like my legs. I no longer watched the water with anticipation, but with a dull, familiar resentment. That day, the air was thick with the usual smell of dust and despair. It was the Sabbath, so the crowd was thinner. I was dozing when a shadow fell over me. I didn't look up. People often stared, their faces a mixture of pity and disgust. But this man's voice was different. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the groans and whispers. But this man's voice was different. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the groans and whispers. I finally looked up, squinting into the light. He was a simple man, a Galilean by his accent. The question was so strange, so absurd, that I didn't even answer it. Instead, the bitterness of my 38 years spilled out of me. "Sir," I said, my voice raspy, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get there, someone else always goes down ahead of me." It was the story I had told myself 1,000 times. It was my shield. The man didn't offer pity. He didn't promise to help me the next time the water moved. He just looked at me, his eyes seeing past the dirty mat and the useless legs, seeing right into the core of me. Then he said 3 words that made no sense. "Get up." I stared at him. He wasn't mocking me. His face was calm, serious. He spoke again, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "Pick up your mat and walk." For a moment, I did nothing. My mind, slow and cynical, rebelled. The word was a foreign language, but something in his gaze held me. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command, spoken with an authority that seemed older than the stones I lay on. And then I felt it. It started in my toes, a warmth that felt like a memory, a tingling, not the dead pins and needles I sometimes felt, but a living fire. The warmth surged up my ankles, into my calves. I felt a muscle I hadn't used since I was a young man, twitch in my thigh. I pushed myself up with my hands. My arms trembled, not from weakness, but from shock. I bent my knee. It held. I planted one foot on the ground, then the other. The stone was cool beneath my sole. I stood up. I stood. The world tilted. After 38 years of looking up at people from the ground, the courtyard seemed vast and strange. I was taller than the children running by. I could see over the heads of those still lying on their mats. I took a step, then another. My legs were unsteady, like a newborn colt's, but they were strong. They worked. Without thinking, I bent down, rolled up the filthy, worn mat that had been my prison, tucked it under my arm, and started to walk away. My heart was a drum against my ribs. Some of the Jewish leaders saw me. They didn't see a miracle. They saw a broken rule. "It is the Sabbath," one of them said, pointing a stern finger at my mat. "The law forbids you to carry that." I was bewildered. My legs were alive. The sun was on my face, and he was talking about a mat. The man who made me well said to me, "Pick up your mat and walk." It was the only answer I had. "Who is this fellow?" they demanded. I looked around, but the man was gone, lost in the crowd. I didn't even know his name. Later, I went to the temple to give thanks. I was walking through the court when I saw him again. He found me. He came close, and his voice was quieter this time. "See, you are well again," he said. His eyes were serious. "Stop sinning or something worse may happen to you." The words sent a shiver through me that had nothing to do with my old sickness. This wasn't just about my legs. It was about my soul. I left the temple and found the leaders. I had to tell them. I had to give them the name of the man who had unwoven 38 years of despair with a single command. His name, I told them, was Jesus.